This iPhone 15 Pro randomly stopped working, and when we plug this electronic cross into the charging port, we see all zeros and detect no signs of life. My customer's entire life is on this phone, so let's see if we can resurrect it and send it home. The first step is to take off the screen by using a razor blade and a plastic pry tool. Then let's pull the battery out of the chassis. Lastly, we need to gently remove the motherboard so we can start our diagnostic. When we plug the motherboard into a DC power supply, we can see an immediate amp draw showing a dead short to ground. Let's check it out under the thermal camera, and I don't see anything heating up on the top of the motherboard. These motherboards are built by two layers being sandwiched together, and our problem is inside these two layers. So we have to slowly heat up the motherboard on a hot plate and simultaneously blast it with hot air until the two layers separate. See how many components are inside the layers? Okay, let's clean the thermal paste off the CPU and diagnose the top layer. When we plug the top layer into the DC power supply, we can see something heating up right over here. That's gonna be our problem. I poured some alcohol on the motherboard, and can you catch which component is getting hot? Let's zoom in and watch it closer. See how this capacitor is moving liquid? So the electricity goes to this capacitor, and it's supposed to hold a small charge in the middle. But when this middle insulation breaks, the gate opens and all of the electricity is sent to ground, which breaks the circuit. This is called a short. So just by removing this capacitor, the phone should be fixed. And when we test with the multimeter, we can see that the short is gone. Okay, now we need to somehow solder the two layers back together, and then we can test the phone. First, we need to clean the old solder off the top layer. Then we need to clean the solder off the bottom layer. Next, we lay the stencil on top of the motherboard and compact solder paste into the holes. When we lift the stencil off the motherboard, see how the solder paste is left behind, forming pre-made balls? This takes a lot of practice, but the secret is to make sure the solder paste is not too dry and not too wet. Now all we need to do is slowly heat up the solder paste until they form beautiful, sexy balls. This is the most satisfying part of the recovery because we can see the phone starting to resurrect from its grave. Now we just put the two layers on top of each other and heat them up to about 230 Celsius. Then we can check the motherboard and we can see that the two layers are perfectly soldered back together. Let's plug the phone in and boom, now it powers on. And when we enter the passcode and go to his settings, we can see that he never signed in with his iCloud account. So the phone was never being backed up, but now all of his data is saved, and if you need something recovered, the link's in the bio. Peace.